All right, let's go.
Okay.
Welcome to the podcast. This is the third
Thanks.
podcast. This is the Something Venture podcast. My guest is Eric Hall of Dolby today.
Thank you.
This is our third podcast, so this is very, very early days. We'll figure this out. But this is eventually going to be super professional.
I hope so.
And so I got this thing here. We'll read it. So eventually you imagine this with like music. This will be wonderful,
Yeah.
right? You ready for this?
Yeah.
Something Venture. You get that? Something Venture. Startup insider Kent Lindstrom explores the reality behind the Silicon Valley headlines. This is that thing. You think you're a genius when you're like writing something in your bedroom, right? And you got to perform it. You're like, maybe not. Startup insider Kent Lindstrom explores the reality behind the Silicon Valley headlines as he sits down with the established veterans and up-and-comers who are shaping the way we view the world and beyond. And so we'll have like someone will do that, right?
Yeah.
Like someone like a voice,
Yeah.
like the CNN guy,
Right.
and then that will have some cool music behind it.
Right. Yeah. Intro.
Yeah.
You got your intro there.
But for now, this is the Something Venture podcast, which I decided to do after, it's kind of funny, after listening to a lot of the Silicon Valley podcasts. I don't know, I didn't care. Like, I just did, like, the topics were about, like, why Microsoft sucked.
Yeah.
And what you think of Google Glass. And I was like, let's do something interesting. So anyway, so you're interesting.
Thank you. Mildly.
From Dolby. By the way, it's today, I think it's like the bike apocalypse here in San Francisco. I was like
It is
driving
it?
over here.
No.
It was insane.
Really?
Yeah.
I think every day's the bike apocalypse.
You know what it's going to become? Have you ever been to like Beijing or Vietnam or
I
something
have,
where
I
like
have.
everyone just starts kind of swarming together and the bikes and it's all coming in? I think we're headed there.
It could happen.
I think we're headed toward that thing. All right. So you work at Dolby.
I do.
You know when what's this? Mark Maron does this.
Yeah.
Like there's always some amazing backstory that involves heroin. Does your backstory involve heroin?
No.
Oh,
My
man.
backstory involves
This is
dice.com.
This is going to be rough without the heroin.
No.
The so I think we should clear up right away.
Okay.
Dolby, founded by Thomas Dolby, the
Not
musician
founded
who
by Thomas
did
Dolby.
Blinded by Science.
No. He pays us money for that name.
And does that ever get old? He does?
He does.
Wait, so that's a fake name.
It is a fake name.
Really?
Yeah, it was a nickname given to him, I think, in high school,
Yeah.
was the story.
Yeah.
And we took him to court, I think, in the 80s when he became popular.
Really?
Yeah, and sued him and won, and he pays to use that mark.
So we're in San Francisco, and one of the things I imagine is that people around the world want to listen in and like understand San Francisco. So
Yeah.
I will tell everyone that Dolby is based here in San Francisco. But so tell me, like Dolby, how is it? We all know what this is.
Yeah.
How is it that I go to a movie and they use, I don't know how many technologies are in creating a movie, but this Dolby has like a 30-second or something ad. Like it's a wonderful ad, it's a wonderful product, but how does Dolby do that? Like that's incredible.
Well, a lot of it's because of our technologies in there. So it's similar to, actually, a vendor was in town recently, and I got to take them to a short screening for Atmos.
Yeah.
So in our screening room,
Yeah.
we have a sort of an Atmos demo that we can give vendors and friends and whatnot. So we brought them in there, and they kind of do a couple of trailers in a row.
Right.
And I was watching, I was thinking, this is like the Dolby response to the old THX trailer.
Yeah, right.
That everyone remembers when they went to the movie theater with like the
Right.
thing,
Oh, yeah,
right?
that thing.
So we have that response to that, which
Yeah.
is the Dolby trailer. So what the commercial you're probably talking about is like our trailer, right? I assume our Dolby trailer.
Yeah, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but is it the audience is listening, you guys?
I don't know. Actually, I
think it is.
don't know, to be honest.
But in any case,
But I think in any case, what's interesting is that you ask anyone on the street, they don't know what Dolby is.
Yeah.
They think we make speakers.
Oh, well, right.
They
Because
think,
that's because
right.
it's the sound
Yeah,
is coming out
right.
of a speaker,
You make
right?
speakers, right? So
Yeah.
I think that I can say the overall consensus of the company right now is to let's educate everybody what the hell we do.
Yeah. Right.
Because people don't know.
There's so I thought everyone knew what Dolby was. Because of that, there's 2 or 3 things everyone remembers from the sound world. There's the Dolby thing.
Yeah.
There's the that sound.
The THX thing.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
And there's the Memorex. The guy.
Oh, the guy, if you're listening.
sitting in a chair, and he's getting blown back.
Totally.
It was
Yeah.
like that poster you got when you were 16. You
They
thought
still
that
sell
was-
those, by the way. They still have those.
I wonder if if I could pull that off as being like so retro, right? Like, didn't they have that along with? Wasn't there like a Choices? There's like the bikini and the ridiculous stuff you have when you're 16 years old.
Right.
So how So how did you get to Dolby? So there's no story like you were a kid, you were into the sound.
I was actually.
Yeah.
I was a total audiophile as a
Yeah.
kid. You know, I had the hi-fi stereo and the music gear and all that stuff. So the Dolby thing was just kind of you just fell into it.
Like a lucky coincidence?
Yeah, because, you know, so I'm in IT.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can do IT at any organization.
Yeah.
And when I found Dolby, it was almost like a match made in heaven because I just found myself at the place I wanted to be doing this thing I could do anywhere, but I ended up doing it at Dolby.
Well, so I have a thesis that if you were around before the internet, which was like
both of us, I think.
Yeah, exactly. There was a phase. Well, so there's a time. There was a phase. There was a movie star, Julia Roberts. She was famous. There was a phase where there was this whole world of like people they're kind of geeky, like you would say today, but there was no internet.
Yeah. And
it got channeled into a couple things. One of them was audio.
Absolutely.
Right. You'd study the audio. You'd study the. They had a magazine called. They probably still do have a magazine called Stereo Review. You'd study the crap out of that. They had microscope pictures of like the needles. Spoiler alert: there used to be little needles that went on the rack. Like there was that whole world.
Yeah.
And then there was a whole world of like ham radio. I never did it. Do you kind of remember what that was?
I do, but I never did it either.
So ham radio was this thing where it was a radio station you'd broadcast, and this weird thing would be happening. Again, before the internet, it's hard to explain, but you'd be I lived in San Diego, and you'd be like broadcasting at night, the ionosphere would disappear, whatever the hell happens.
Yeah.
And you'd hear a voice from like across the world.
Yeah.
Like Australia.
Yeah.
And I forget how you did it, but if you said the right thing, that guy would hear you, and then he had a sticker that he would mail to you.
Yeah.
And if you were a big into this thing, you'd have a ton of these stickers.
Yeah.
And then if you got really into it, you'd have this huge like antenna outside your house. It was a really geeky thing.
Yeah.
But I do think it was like sort of the precursor in a weird way. Like that's where all this was being channeled.
Yeah.
So we were going to try to tell a story. We couldn't remember the whole story, but it was about the Beats headphones and Dr. Dre and like the Monster Cable. But I think we can figure out the first part of the story, like the Monster Cable part of the story.
Yeah.
So a really weird thing has happened in sound. When I was a kid, I would save up money. This was back when kids like saved up money. And I'd save up and I'd like do, shitty jobs and stuff like that. And then I'd have like, whatever it was, $100, which is like $500 or whatever it is. And I'd buy like speakers.
Yeah.
And I'd have speakers or whatever order. You'd buy like a tuner and speakers.
Yeah.
Like that.
Exactly. Yeah. The receiver and then the speakers. Yeah.
So years later, we have this story where there's now these Beats headphones that are on everybody's head in the world.
Yeah.
Which is a branded set of headphones. Oh, crap.
Spacebar. Here we go.
Nope.
That should do it. Oh, we lost the central. You have to bring it back. There you go, spacebar.
All right, we're back. Kind of joined by Michael White, who will join us in a later podcast. Yeah, you say that. You'll jump in here in a second. So
he could be the second guest.
We'll try to get him to be the first guest.
Or we could run out of time and we don't have room for him.
Yeah, the problem is you're being
like
from,
Matt Damon.
You're being from Dolby, being the first guest. I'm not sure I could have gotten this thing to work without you. So Michael will be like a good lawyer second guest. So Beats come along, but the weird evolutions we were talking about, like is when we were kids, we would save up money for great speakers, which children do not do anymore.
No.
So how did it happen that like the internet evolved in such an amazing way? I mean, we used to really have like amazing speaker, Monster Cable. That's a little foreshadowing. And how did that happen? Like, what happened? What did the guys at Dolby think about that? Like, kids walk around with like access to every song ever recorded, and like shitty little pieces of plastic that go in their ears. Like,
exactly. Well, I can tell you, we met. Marketing did a presentation from the whole company.
That's a guy's name.
No, marketing.
Thanks.
Mark Edding.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really popular.
Right.
So marketing did a whole presentation from the company to say that our biggest competitor right now is just good enough.
Right.
Because every kid that walks around watching their Game of Thrones, episodes in mono or whatever, on a 4-inch screen, that's all they care about.
Yeah.
They don't have, like when we grew up, what we cared about, we wanted the 10-foot screen with the subwoofer that would like shake the house down.
Is it just that having every song in the world is that amazing? I mean, this kind of happened with, the other place it happened with is a little bit with wireless phones. Which is, if you used to have like a Pac Bell phone, that thing was like rock solid. Like you pick that up, there's a dial tone. The electricity was out. You would have a dial tone.
For sure.
Crystal clear connection always. Yeah. And like a wireless phone, if you can make a 7-minute call in San Francisco, congratulations. So it kind of happened there because like the other shit was so good, right? Is that what happened with like audio? Is that the?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
That may never be answered. Someday, perhaps.
So the decision that they made when it finally said, okay, we're going to do something different. So people are now, because the thing about earbud, well, you look kind of silly when you have huge headphones on your head, right? Like it was cool, like when you're listening to Dark Side, and it goes from one side
and you're
to
sitting at home all smoked up.
right. But walking down the street, with like having little earbuds in, it's kind of cool because maybe you're on the phone, maybe you're on a business call, maybe you can't really see them. Well, Apple obviously made them super popular in that commercial with the person dancing and the white headphones, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody goes, oh, we're going to put big, ugly-looking headphones on somebody's head, wouldn't the concept be you're putting those big, ugly headphones on and they'll like sound really good as a result?
Right. I think that they're definitely selling image over quality.
So you put on big, shitty-looking headphones that sound really bad.
But see, when you say shitty-looking, to some people, it's a fashion statement.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's the thing.
Yeah. All right, well, let's start the story. We'll like go learn the rest of the story.
You reminded me of what I think is the issue, which is I think content rules over quality.
Right.
Meaning there's so much to watch. Right. It's more about there's such a voluminous amount of things to absorb or to consume.
Yeah.
That the delivery mechanism is secondary.
Yeah.
Because in the old days, you had, you'd watch your ET Laserdisc on your home theater.
Yeah, right.
And that was what you had.
Yeah.
But now you can stream every single Steven Spielberg movie ever created at the snap of your fingers.
Yeah.
And it's just not that special anymore for the theater, the home theater.
Right. Yeah, I guess you have a whole bunch of you also don't have you have kind of the death of the album. Right, like the album needs to be in a particular order because you put a needle on the beginning of the album and it would go through a particular order.
A side, B side.
Yeah.
The sides of a record are completely gone now.
Now, is there any technology for playing songs backwards on, like digital song backwards? I think it used to be like a big thing. Or you play a song backwards.
You can do it right on your thing here if you want to. You could play this entire interview backwards and it'll probably say something satanic.
There's secret messages in it. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the beats are, that just seems like a very odd evolution to me, but there you go.
It is very odd because I think it's fashion over form over function.
It's just weird because headphones only do one thing. Like they're supposed to just kind of sound good.
Well, now they do two things. Well, actually, they sound crappy and they look
stupid.
But
okay, you were going to say cool.
You see the guys. I mean, after every after every football game or baseball game, they're walking on the bus.
Yeah,
they're walking on the bus with those things around their neck.
I think that I say that doesn't age well. I say you look back at those pictures in like 5 to 10 years,
and the headphones will be even bigger.
I don't think so. So what happens? Okay, so
it's kind of like Buckwheat. When his afro kind of got bigger on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
the Eddie Murphy Buckwheat character.
Yeah. So why don't we explain the beginning of the monster story? Talk about where audio goes next, and then we'll wrap it up because it'll be at 15 minutes.
Okay.
What's a good length for a podcast?
That's a good question. 15-minute interview is pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty
15 minutes.
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Something like Mark Maron or like the Leo Laporte Twit thing. It's like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Not as interesting as those guys.
But I mean, he gets the whole thing. Plus, he's interviewing celebrities, right?
Yeah.
So not us chumps here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, be funny, stay close to the microphone. So what?
Okay.
So the beginning of the story, there's a company called Monster.
Yeah.
There's a Monster drink. There's a Monster truck. There's a Monster cable. These are Monster cables.
Yeah.
Which I also remember was part of this whole stereo thing where you get these big 1/4-inch cables.
$600 a foot. Yeah.
That connected your speakers to your tuner, which was the thing that captured all the sound.
Exactly.
And you'd kind of you wouldn't really hide them, right? You kind of display them because they're monsters, right?
Right.
So was that legit, or was that just the same shit you buy at your hardware store? Like for
Well, I mean, purists would say definitely there's a difference.
Yeah.
But you have to have the front to back to get that difference. You have to have the $10,000 receiver and the $10,000 speakers.
Yeah.
Because a $5,000 cable is not going to make either of those things better.
Right. And is this related to impedance?
It is. It is related to impedance, and actually, I believe. But I'm not a sound guy, technically, right? I'm not a PhD in audio.
So I was going to call the episode "Sound Guy." So
that's a good. That's a good. That's
a good one. Apparently, it's not.
I'm good.
So Monster Cable is pretty successful.
Yeah.
And what do they try to do? They try to go into selling
headphones or speakers.
The speakers, and then they realize that market's kind of dead. That's kind of crazy, but that market's kind of dead.
But they realized there was a market for headphones.
Yeah. And so we're coming to the middle of the story, which is all we know, and then we'll figure it out until. And so the guy, it's like an Asian guy, and his son goes out to Los Angeles.
Yep, from the Bay Area.
Yeah,
actually Silicon Valley.
And he doesn't have a lawyer.
Yeah. And
he negotiates a deal with Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Turns out Dr. Dre has a lawyer.
Right.
Has a lot of lawyers. Mm-hmm. And then something they get screwed.
Yeah.
Monster gets screwed. Now Dr. Dre is even richer.
Yes.
Wow. That's a great story. We'll have to figure out the end of it. It's like a Game of Thrones. Like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm sure the wedding will go great. So what?
No spoilers.
Yeah, right. So anything exciting happening next in audio? Oh, and then the bit will be, I'll ask you what you think of Google Glass. So if you listen to these other podcasts.
You could just have like a regular thing, right? Your regular.
My God. It's the,
Let's
like
talk
the
about
least interesting.
ABC.
Yeah. The least interesting topic on these other podcasts. Where it's like, Google Glass is going to do this, or Google.
I heard. Have you heard about the first porn app for Google Glass?
Okay. There's one.
My favorite part is to turn it off. Well, the I don't remember exactly. It says, "Okay, Glass, start sex." I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And what you get. You actually get an image of the other person on your headset.
Oh,
so I don't know what sort of weirdo wants to watch his own face while he's having sex with the other person. But my favorite part actually is the way you close the app is you say, "Okay, Glass, pull out."
The Facebook guys bought Oculus Rift this past week.
I heard about that.
It didn't even occur. Is that because of Google Glass? Did they literally just go, "Oh, Glass, Oculus"? Like, is that?
I think it might be because Zuckerberg is a closet cyberpunk fan and wanted to create the multiverse.
Oh, like the crypto.
Yes, he's a William Gibson and Neil Stephenson fan because the multiverse was, I think, potentially created in that moment.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're, Snow Crash. If you're at Snow Crash,
yeah, I've heard Snow Crash.
What's that?
Yeah,
yeah. So in that book, right, there's the club that everyone goes to in the multiverse.
Right. Oh, yeah, right.
Right, where there's always the guy that's the giant penis.
Oh, there's a book, Ready Player One, you've got to read if you've never read it.
You told me about that one. Yeah, I need to read that.
It's fantastic. But the Google, like when you listen to the other podcast, because we're geniuses, but the other one's like, here's like Google Glass is going to do this. It's like a whole blah. Yeah. Don't care. And then what's the other one? Oh, I hate Microsoft. Like, why Microsoft? Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Do you hate Microsoft?
I don't, because they're like the reason why I have a career in a lot of ways, to be honest with you.
Microsoft's great. Like, screw Apple.
Yeah. I like them both. They're both. I mean, I have a career because of both of them.
You're so diplomatic. So what?
That's true.
So what happens next in audio that's like exciting or whatever, and then I'll ask you about what you think of the future of Google Glasses.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. I don't care.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. But
No, I think that Oculus is more interesting because I think Mark Zuckerberg does not want people to leave their homes. We will all have virtual friends and virtual parties and virtual girlfriends.
Yeah.
And, we won't have to even see each other. We can just virtually see each other.
Really?
In the comfort of our own living room.
Yeah.
Which should, potentially bring down the drunk driving rate.
Oh,
hopefully. There's an opportunity.
That was his plan all along.
It was really a public safety. Really was his.
He sort of famously said that you're probably much more interested in a squirrel that's dead on your front lawn than hundreds of people that are killed on the other side of the planet. So
yeah.
I guess he's like taking the lawn out of the equation too. We're all going home. So. Okay, so let's wrap it up.
Okay.
So what do you think is going to happen with Google Glass?
I think it depends on how they figure out how to make it not look dorky. They need, you feel like this is this an alpha that we're looking at? You know what I mean? Like if they can actually integrate it into a pair of glasses and no one knows it's there, much more interesting.
Oh my God, terrible. I so don't care. I met a guy who's wearing Google Glass at a party, and I think he was being serious. He's a pretty cool guy. He was like, I said, why are you wearing the Google Glass? This is really distracting.
So it was at a party.
Yeah, kind
Okay.
of like a cocktail. It was for that cocktail party. Kind
Okay.
of nice.
Was it at someone's home or was it?
No, it was at the Design Center here in San Francisco.
Okay.
So it was a big fancy
So it
thing.
was like an industry
a
event.
book party. Yeah, so it was okay to have Google Glass, but it's
Okay.
never okay.
Did they have a sign out front that said, shirt,
No.
sleeve, shirt,
Yeah.
shoes, Google Glass?
No glass.
Okay.
It's so annoying. And he said he was doing it actually. He thought the glass thing was kind of ridiculous, but he's like, I just want to see how people react to it.
Yeah.
So for him, it was a whole theater piece.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Attention. Yeah.
So, all right, I want to wrap up.
Okay.
That's been it. That's been episode
Yeah,
3 of the
very
Something
nice.
Venture podcast. Hopefully, no one listened to it. No one listened to like the 10th episode. But that's it. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
me.
Sure thing.
All right.
All right. Good night.